Welcome to Consultier Inc. and Interlink IQ. To conduct a document review utilizing the calibration program under the SQF Module 11.2.3, first check if the document title matches the uploaded file name on the dashboard. In this instance, we do have the same titles as the calibration program. Next, both must have the same document codes. For this example, we do have 11.2.3.P0. Since this is a template, we indicate the PCQI as the account initials. However, we can customize the code based on the company's initials. For the page number, we use the page XFY format. Ensure that it reflects the current page position and the total page number of the document. Then insert the company logo here, together with the company name, the company address, and enter the designated department. For the originated by section, it can be the food safety, quality assurance, or the quality control personnel of the company. The originator ensures the implementation of the quality management and document control system. Enter the name of the originator, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date originated. For the reviewed by section, it can be the personnel assigned in the quality management department who reviews the drafted document or its revision for accuracy and implementation. Enter the name of the reviewer, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date reviewed. For the approved by section, it must be the person in the C-level management who has approval authority. Enter the name of the approver, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date approved. The revision date is the same as the date originated or drafted by the author. For the effective date, it is the date the document was signed and approved. The publication date is when the document is published for distribution and initiated personnel training. The implementation date is when the document is distributed and personnel training is completed. For the supersedes, put original for the initial issuance of the document. For any revisions, reflect the initial revision date before the current revision. Please be reminded that this section must be properly filled out to be compliant. Now we will focus on the components of the program. First is purpose. The purpose is the implementation of any certification standard or compliance with a regulatory requirement. For this program, it is for implementation with the SQF Module 11 Edition 9 for food manufacturing under Clause 11.2.3. First, to implement SQF 11.2.3.1, the methods and responsibility for calibration and recalibration of measuring, testing, and inspection equipment used for monitoring activities outlined in prerequisite programs, food safety plans, and other process controls, or to demonstrate compliance with customer specifications shall be documented and implemented. Software used for such activities shall be validated as appropriate. Second, to implement SQF 11.2.3.2, equipment shall be calibrated against national or international reference standards and methods or to an accuracy appropriate to its use. In cases where standards are not available, the site shall provide evidence to support the calibration reference method applied. Third, to implement SQF 11.2.3.3, calibration shall be performed according to regulatory requirements and/or to the equipment manufacturer's recommended schedule. Fourth, to implement SQF 11.2.3.4, procedures shall be documented and implemented to address the resolution of potentially affected products when measuring, testing, or inspection equipment is found to be out of calibration. Fifth, to implement SQF 11.2.3.5, calibrated measuring, testing, and inspection equipment shall be protected from damage and unauthorized adjustment or use. And sixth, to implement SQF 11.2.3.6, a directory of measuring, testing, and inspection equipment that require calibration and records of the calibration tests shall be maintained. Second is scope. The scope of the program is based on the purpose and serves as a guide in defining and describing the layout of the procedure. It includes methods, authorized personnel, frequency, out of calibration, metal detectors, scales, and device calibration and verification. Third is policy. The policies are the rules set by the company as their implementation guide. First, test equipment that is used to confirm regulatory requirements, for example weight scales, are calibrated against a national or international standard. Second, in cases where a national or international standard does not exist or is not arranged, a reference standard is purchased or created and/or a standard method, often supplied by the equipment supplier, is used. pH meters are calibrated against reference buffer solutions according to the manufacturer's instructions. Thermometers are calibrated against boiling water or ice water if these are approximate the temperatures the thermometer is required to measure when in use. Third, identify all the equipment that requires calibration, for example, thermometers, scales, pH meters, etc. Fourth, ensure the equipment, once calibrated, is protected so that measurements remain accurate. Fifth, ensure the equipment is only operated by authorized personnel and using approved methods. Sixth, determine how accurate the measurements need to be. Does the site need to comply with industry or national standards? If the calibration is designed to check measurements implemented to improve a process, the site may determine the level of measurement required and apply calibration parameters to ensure consistent measurement. Seventh, equipment is calibrated regularly. The calibration frequency varies upon the type of equipment and its usage. Calibration frequency is adjusted in light of experience or manufacturer's instructions. Validation software, for example, software used to control manufacturing lines or other equipment, is to be scheduled and performed according to the provider's recommendations. Eighth, products produced between the time equipment is discovered as out of calibration and the last calibration check with normal tolerances recorded is considered non-conforming and is addressed based on the procedures outlined in Section 4.8. Ninth, results of all calibrations are recorded. And 10th, calibrated equipment is labeled with calibration sticker, which indicates when it is calibrated and when recalibration is due. Fourth is procedure. The procedure is the step-by-step process and the actual implementation of the policy. First under procedure is methods. All equipment that requires calibration is identified on the master list of equipment, preventative maintenance, and calibration schedule, not limited to the equipment listed below. Metal detectors, scales, sealing machines, air compressors, and inkjet printers. Next, the accuracy of measuring equipment and inspection of monitoring equipment used to test food safety parameters must meet regulatory, legal, and customer requirements. The equipment used for processing is pre-inspected and tested to ensure the accuracy of information provided to make operational decisions. Testing equipment used to confirm regulatory requirements, for example weight or scales, are calibrated against a national or international standard by authorized personnel. In cases where a national or international standard does not exist, a reference standard, method, and frequency from the original equipment manufacturer may be used. pH meters are calibrated against reference buffer solutions according to the manufacturer's instructions when performed in-house. Thermometers can be calibrated against boiling water or ice water if these approximate are the temperatures the thermometer is required to measure when in use. To ensure that measuring equipment gives reliable results, the site must identify all the equipment that requires calibration. Ensure the equipment, once calibrated, is protected so that measurements remain accurate. Approved calibrated equipment protection, reference weight, and measure calibration policy. 1. Calibrated equipment is kept secure in the production rooms, where assigned in their designated protective places. 2. The QC department shall verify the accuracy of assigned calibrated equipment before use and at a minimum of an hour thereafter as required by the product production process. And 3. Any defects or deficiencies in equipment calibration and accuracy should be noted at that time. Second under procedure is authorized personnel. Ensure the equipment is only operated by authorized personnel and using approved methods. The QA or QC department, production manager, maintenance technician, and authorized third-party calibration service providers. Third under procedure is frequency. Calibrate equipment regularly. The calibration frequency will vary depending upon the type of equipment and its usage. Calibration frequency must be adjusted considering experience or manufacturer's instructions. Validation of software, for example, software used to control manufacturing lines or other equipment is to be scheduled and performed according to the provider's recommendations, which you may refer to Master List of Equipment Calibration Schedule. Next is out of calibration. Develop a procedure to address products produced between the time equipment out of calibration is discovered and the last calibration check with normal tolerances recorded. 1. Disposition of affected products. Reference QA or QC department. Hold tag is red. 2. In the event the calibrated equipment fails during its intended use, the products affected shall be placed on hold by personnel and shall report the failed equipment and the products affected to QA and respected supervisors and management. Also, affected materials will be tagged by QA to be held, inspected, and verified for accuracy of its measure to ensure accuracy of the intended measure before product release. Fifth under procedure is metal detectors. Under metal detectors, first is standards, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, followed by frequency. The calibration check during operation is hourly, and the calibration verification is done annually, to be performed by third-party calibrator. Third, when metal detection is used, the following program applies. Fourth, metal detectors are to be checked for in-process calibration hourly. Fifth, to test the tube detector, introduce a standard with the product through the sensing head. Sixth, to test the conveyor detector, place the standard above the package and pass through the sensing head. Seventh, standard sizes for the tube detector are 1.5 mm ferrous, 1.5 mm non-ferrous, and 2.0 mm stainless steel. Eighth, during operations, if the detector does not detect the above standards, first, the product going through the metal detector is stopped. Second, the production supervisor is contacted immediately. Third, the product from the last successful test to the failed test is put on QC hold. Fourth, the metal detector is reset. This usually fixes the issue. Fifth, when the standards are properly detected, the production line can continue. And sixth, the product on hold will be resent through the metal detector for clearance. Next, any product that scans positive must be repassed through the sensing head to confirm the result. First, upon the second positive result, reject the package and hold it so the quality assurance person can analyze it. Second, if the QA technician finds metal pieces from the production equipment, the equipment must be disassembled and inspected to find the source of contamination. Third, if the source of contamination cannot be confirmed after the end of the shift, all components of processing equipment must be inspected. Fourth, the product from the last successful test to the failed test is put on QC hold. Fifth, the product on hold will be resent through the metal detector. And sixth, when running dry products for processing, an additional step of a magnet screen is used to capture metal. This is checked on an hourly basis. Next is scales. Under scales is standards, such as California type Evaluation Program or CTEP, the National Type Evaluation Program or NTEP, and lastly, the NIST. Next to standards is frequency. Under frequency is calibration check during operation, which is done daily. Calibration of scales must be verified before use, which you may refer to weights and measures, scale assessment, or the calibration log, and to the equipment calibration sticker. Next is calibration verification semi-annually, which is performed by third party assigned to ABC Scales Calibration Services. Next, all scales are plated with the most current calibration service date for the validity of use. Scales that do not have valid calibration date identified must be reported to the quality personnel. Lastly, scales that are damaged or defective in their function must be correctly identified with the equipment out of service tag, pending calibration maintenance and clearance. Seventh, under procedure, is device calibration and verification. Under device calibration and verification is Hygiena ATP adenosine triphosphate device calibration, such as standards, which includes ATP standards by Swedish Standard Institute, frequency, calibration check during operation, and calibration verification, which is performed in-house with provided Hygiena calibration kit and performed by quality personnel. Lastly, under procedure is non-conforming products, and under that, first, if products were passed through an equipment that is discovered out of calibration, the time equipment is discovered as such, and the last calibration check with normal tolerances is determined. Second, products that were passed through the out-of-calibration equipment during the identified time are put on hold and labeled as non-conforming products until quality tests are conducted to verify that products are conforming to standards and are safe for human consumption. For example, for metal detectors, pass all products through a calibrated metal detector. For thermometers, conduct microbiological tests. And third, products that are identified as non-conforming or unfit for human consumption are rejected and discarded as waste. Fifth is responsibility. The responsibility of the person is indicated. It covers what to perform to comply with the procedure or the policy. For all personnel, shall adhere to this policy. For the preventative control qualified individual, visually inspect areas for compliance with this policy. Oversee compliance of procedure, ensure personnel is trained on this policy and procedures, and monitor and take corrective action to ensure compliance with this policy. Supervisors or department heads and team leaders are responsible to ensure and verify this policy and procedure is adhered to, and take corrective action to ensure compliance with this policy. For the quality personnel, to validate training and adherence to policy and procedure, and to monitor and document nonconformance observation is also known as discrepancy using the corrective action, preventive action, or the CAPA report. For the quality or compliance department, to document control, records, and archive. And for the maintenance department, to monitor all calibrations and verifications from QA personnel, label equipment, and equipment out of service tag. Next is corrective actions. The corrective action is the process of taking appropriate steps to eliminate causes of nonconformities or other undesirable situations. First is the equipment. If the calibration is not within specifications, equipment is recalibrated per manufacturing specifications. Equipment is validated by the third-party calibrator. He verifies calibration before use. Next is products. For products affected by the non-conforming or out of specification due to calibration, first, QC verifies affected products for non-conformances. And, segregated and tagged for disposal, you may refer to disposal program and non-conforming product or equipment program. Seventh is review quality department. The review section serves as guidelines for conducting the annual or periodic review. Under Review Quality is annual review of compliance to calibration requirements by observing the following. First, measuring, test, and inspection equipment is identified. Second, calibration standards are known and followed. Third, calibration methods and frequency are documented for all available measuring, testing, and inspection equipment. Fourth, calibration methods and frequency meet national or international standard where appropriate. Fifth, calibration methods and frequency meet customer requirements where appropriate. Sixth, calibration and/or validation methods and frequency meet manufacturer's instructions where appropriate. Seventh, methods for the calibration of equipment includes responsibility for conducting calibration. Eighth, authorized personnel understand the methods for conducting calibration. Ninth, there are procedures in place to address the disposition of potentially affected product. 10th, the potential affected product is adequately disposed of. 11th, calibrated equipment is protected from damage. 12th, calibrated equipment is not subject to unauthorized adjustment. Lastly, calibration records are available and complete. 8th is reference documents. The reference documents are the set of documents used to implement and monitor a program, policy, or procedure. It includes the master list of equipment calibration schedule, the equipment out of service tag, the equipment calibration sticker, weights and measures scale assessment or calibration log sheet, the product release tag, non-conforming product or equipment program, and the disposal program. 9th is references. The reference section is composed of guides utilized to implement the program. Examples are the certification guide, regulations, and other widely accepted scientific journals, research, and the like. It must comply with the standard format citation, which can be based on either MLA, APA, or Chicago style, and update the access date. Lastly, history. The history section is where we can update the program if there are any changes or revisions made in the document. If there is a revision, enter the revision number, followed by the revision date, the description of the change made, the name of the author or the originator, and the title or department of the author or the originator. Thank you for participating in this document review. Content presented are for training purposes only and are based on the interpretation of standards and best practices and must be customized for your intended use. To fully customize your programs, policies, procedures, forms for records, and lessons for training, you may contact Interlink IQ or Consultier Inc. at services@interlinkiq.com or simply call 202-982-3002. For free access, visit interlinkiq.com.